Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you're watching on, assuming you're watching live, and it will show up here in our chat room. And today I am joined, as I am most every Wednesday, by Krys Copeland. Hi, Krys.
Hi, Don. Nice to see you again, and nice to be here with everybody. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Yes, indeed. And Krys is joining us from the Netherlands, where it is a very different time of day than it is here in Illinois. But
It's
that's
wine
the
time
beauty.
here, so
Yes. You have your wine, I have my coffee, everything is great in the world. Um, Lori Blackman always used to start her programs with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And that really does sum up beautifully the nature of our current world. And I think it's wonderful that we can talk internationally this way, almost as if we were in the same room.
yeah,
Um, Not quite to the point that it's exactly in the same room, but I don't think we're far from it.
exactly. Hi, Janet. Good to see you in the chat.
Hi, Janet.
And you're absolutely right about that. Today I've had a back-to-back meetings most of the day, so I've been talking with people all across the Netherlands,
Yeah,
people in Palestine, people in China, people in Hawaii. So it's been very busy today.
yes, indeed. It's a wonderful world.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing. But today, we are going to talk about different things going on at Corellian Publishing. And and hello to Renee in the chat room. It's good to see you, Renee.
Good afternoon, Renee.
And what do we want to talk about today?
Well, I want to talk about your numerology book
Oh
because
boy.
yes, we're going through the final round of getting all the images in there and all the little final details, and that's really exciting to see it pull together
Hmm.
to be released on the 21st. So if you haven't ordered your copy yet, you can find that at CorellianPublishing.com. We have both the ebook version as well as the print version available, so check that out. And today I'd just like to share a bit with you of the final chapters. We've showed you some sneak peeks at the earlier chapters, but the final chapters are some of my favorites. I say that every time. This chapter is my favorite. Now this chapter is my favorite. The more I keep going through it, but the part that I really liked this week is the step-by-step advanced calculation methods, which includes not so in the beginning of the book we talk a lot about the life number, life path number, we talk a lot about the destiny number and other numbers related to the name. And these numbers are not always included in your standard numerology book or your standard numerology report, but they're quite enlightening. So this includes the pinnacle numbers, which are kind of the distinct themes and challenges around your life, and they're calculated using the birth date and adding the sums of either the month and the day of birth, the day and the year of birth, or the month and the year of birth. And there are some beautiful interpretations in here of each types of the pinnacles. In addition, it was great learning how the pinnacle numbers are calculated, because it's quite different from the way the standard numbers are calculated. Could you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about pinnacle numbers and how you kind of use them when you're creating a chart?
Well, they're just another way of approaching character analysis. And there are so many different things that you can do through numerology. And you've listed a number of them. With the pinnacle numbers, and hello to Janet in the chat room. With the
Hi,
pinnacle
Janet.
numbers, they talk more about how you respond to influences, I would say. Whereas the life path number and the others have a lot more to do with the internal things. I would say the pinnacles have more to do with external things. And The thing about numerology that is fascinating is that you can approach it from all these different angles. You can come to it. Um, oh, and hello to Ivy in the chat room who says, "Good
Hi, hi.
afternoon. My daughter and I have the same birthday." Well, that must have been a wonderful birthday present. All calculations always come out the same, no matter that we are years apart. Always. Well, that is a very interesting karma. Um, and what I would say is, if you happen to buy this book, see if that's true through every part of this, because only a small part of numerology depends on the birth. Much of it has to do with your name, the name that you use, the name that you have legally, um, and aspects of these things. So I would think it would come out very different in those ways. But then again, if you have a special karma, it might still come out the same. I've seen stranger things happen.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen that as well, where sometimes numbers align really well together between two different people, and it's cool to see that it's with someone in your family, so it kind of builds that connection with them.
We
And good
want to say
afternoon,
hello.
Mary.
Oh, yeah. Hello to Mary, and hello to Fox Fur Witch, who says, "Good afternoon. I finally caught this live. Yay. Thank you for joining us."
Awesome. Thank you, Foxfur. Good to see you here.
We really
Uh,
do it live most
yeah,
days. Occasionally we have a best of, but usually we're live and we're right here to talk with you. And
no, it's
I've said
really
before, I really like that part.
yeah. I really enjoy the lives as well, but oftentimes I have to also watch them afterwards since we're in different time zones. So often during the weekends, I'm playing catch up on those. But if you have any comments, Foxfur, please feel free to jump in the chat with those. Love to hear your thoughts on our discussion today. And hello
And
to Arlene.
hello,
Good to see you.
Arlene. And of course, we're thinking about Eric and hoping
Yes.
that his recovery is continuing to go well. For those who are not aware, Arlene's husband Eric had open heart surgery just a couple of days ago, and so I'm sure he's in a lot of pain. But I understand he's recovering well, and we certainly pray that that continues.
He's a strong man. I think he'll pull through this just like he does with everything else.
Yeah, it. One of the things I've been most grateful for in the last years is I did not have to have surgery, but for about a year that was an open question, and I'm very happy that I was able to avoid that. But today they have so much more success with these things, and I'm sure Eric is going to be just fine. And many people who need this kind of surgery, I'm glad it's there for when it's needed. Um, it's interesting. I was talking with someone last night about Western medicine versus other things, and I'm a great believer in herbalism and psychic healing and all of that. But I also am grateful for Western medicine for the things that it's most effective with. And Arlene says, "Thank you. He is in a lot of pain, but is being transferred outside of the surgical intensive care unit today." So that's good news.
Yes, one step further, one step on that road to recovery.
I think it's impossible not to have pain after that kind of surgery. So hopefully it's not as bad as it might be, but either way, it will get better.
Yes, we'll keep
So
him.
back to numerology.
Yes, this part in particular, the pinnacle cycles and the challenge numbers, I find fascinating because of my own birth date, which is 4484. So if you
Mm-hmm.
reduce that down, it just becomes fours across the board. And so adding or subtracting, you're going to get the same answers. And so my pinnacles are always eights, and which is all about career success, which is something that, of course, I've been focused on a lot in my life. I think I've been working since I was 14 years old,
Yeah.
and it's definitely been a big part of my life.
Well,
And
it's
it's interesting.
interesting that your numbers are 4 and 8, because those are like the two, by some people's standards, the two most difficult numbers to deal with. Although
Yeah,
8 can also be one of the, well, they can both be among the more rewarding ones too. But they deal a lot with struggle, with lessons.
mhm.
4 is ruled by Saturn, 8 is ruled by Mars, and um, some numerologists take 4 as an unequivocally negative number. I do not.
And well, in Chinese culture, it's also considered a negative number. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's
but then I also look at the planet Saturn in astrology in a more positive way than some astrologers do, and I think that those lessons are the very thing that enriches us and moves us forward. So it's not an inherently negative number, but if you fight the lessons, um, the school teacher can be a little rough.
yeah.
And 8 is the make it or break it number. You either do really, really well or really, really badly, and you don't fall in between.
Or if you're like me, you do both in life. So
Yes.
yeah. And
Um,
that's what I
yeah.
found really interesting, because when you get to the pinnacle numbers are amazing, because you also break them down based on which pinnacle it is, because there's 4 or pinnacles in your life, and they're each related to different parts of your life. The first one being early adulthood, or childhood through early adulthood, and then your 30s through your 40s, your 40s to your 50s, and then your 50s and up, somewhere around there. All of which are calculated on the life path number. That was something new I learned. I think maybe I learned it 20 years ago when I started learning about numerology, but I had completely forgotten about it until I was reading through the book. And the other fascinating thing about that is with the challenges, my numbers again all add up to 0 in challenges, because in challenges you're subtracting those same numbers, the month, the day, and the year. And of course, 4 minus 4 is always 0. The interesting thing about the 0 challenge number is that in most interpretations, the numerologist who is writing the book or giving the report says, "Oh, your life is easy. You don't have any major challenges, so you can focus on the higher levels of human consciousness, and that higher tier of Maslow's needs, the hierarchy of needs, so self-actualization." And that's not true in my life by any means. If I have had an incredibly challenging life, I think that most people would objectively say that, if knowing my life history. But at the same time, I've had incredible opportunities that no one else who has faced the same life challenges that I've faced, growing up where I grew up, in the type of community that I grew up, they never had those opportunities. Other people who had the similar lifestyle did not have the same opportunities that I had in life. As far as I know, no one from my school has gone anywhere except maybe Mexico.
Yeah.
They haven't had a chance to travel around the world as much, and that's sad to see, because there definitely are a lot of very intelligent people that come out of that area, but they're not given the same life opportunities. And so I loved your interpretation, where it's this sense of harmony with it, that it's about balance. So if you have a 0 for a challenge number, then whatever challenges you face in life, you have an equal measure of reward in life. And that is also incredibly true for my life. So I definitely prefer that interpretation compared to other ones. I see we have some more comments in the chat.
Yeah, so we want to say hello to Proxones in the chat room, and Proxones gives us a warm welcome from the other side of the world, and remarks that I remember that numerology is also covered in a Kabbalistic way in the 3rd book of Franz Bardon. I don't think that comment is completely finished yet, but yeah, we're looking at it in a Pythagorean sort of way. But there's also a completely a very very ancient Kabbalistic way of looking at it. And we talk, I believe, in some places about different forms of Kabbalism, or different forms of numerology in this book. That there's certainly more than just the ones that we're looking at. And we want to say hello to Steve in the chat room. And Proxones finishes their comment with they remember numerology from the book of Franz Barton, but they look back to those books um, from the point of view of Doctor Strange, saying things completely got way out of hand. And that's so easy with so many of these different metaphysical art forms. They can be so very deep. I had a very interesting experience recently, totally getting off track. I've been following Prince Stash on Instagram, Stash de Rolla, who is a prince living in Italy. And he's been going through his library lately. And he has a very extensive metaphysical library, as well as general historical library. He is the son of the famous artist Balthus, who was prominent in the 20th century. But he recently was showing his book on alchemy, which was one of the first books on alchemy I ever read. And I had no idea this was the same person. And it was fascinating to have that moment of realization. But on the subject of metaphysical disciplines that can get way out of hand, alchemy is right at the top of them.
That's
Alchemy
true with anything, though.
Yeah, alchemy can be presented in ways that depending on the author can be very misleading about what they're really doing, which was one of the nice things about this book. It was not. It was a good introduction to alchemy, because alchemy is about self-transformation. Now, alchemists did look at the natural world and use that to help them understand spirituality. But it really was first and foremost a spiritual system. And it's extremely prominent in Wiccan thought and practice in ways that most Wiccans have no knowledge of, because they know nothing about alchemy. If you watch the recent double investiture, the entire thing is alchemical, if you know anything about alchemy.
Yeah.
And my family were big on alchemy. And I was introduced to it at a very, very early age.
I love that you actually put that kind of a bit of a warning in the relationship section of this book, that no one should ever really base their decision on whether or not to start a relationship with someone or keep a relationship with someone based solely on numbers, and that you show that these numbers are not, these numbers are compatible and these numbers are not. These numbers are going to have some difficulties, and here's the difficulties they might face, so make sure you work through them together. And
difficulties are not necessarily, difficulties are not necessarily a reason not to go into a relationship. Sometimes the most difficult relationships are the ones we learn most from, and the ones that we have the most happiness in. And it's true in astrology as well, or anything like this that allows for comparison charts. They're not there to say, yes, you should, or no, you shouldn't necessarily. They're there to say, this is what you're facing. And yes, I mean, you can be hooking up with someone who you're going to face some difficulties with. Perhaps because you express yourself differently, perhaps because you have some differences in your priorities, but you can work those out. You may grow by working them out. It may be that person and those problems are there to show you where you have problems and need to make corrections. So, yeah, I am not a great believer in the idea of looking at this as a yes or no, so much as this is what you're dealing with.
More informative.
And going back to Rev Don's book of astrology, I am a Gemini. And because of that, I do tend to see multiple sides of arguments. Most of my spiritual thoughts come down to the idea of the resolution of opposites. And in finding that middle path. I'm a great believer in the Aristotelian idea that it's the middle path that is always the right one. If you go too far in either direction, you have gone off the path.
Absolutely.
There's no quality, even those that are objectively wonderful, good qualities, of which too much is not bad. Even something like compassion. You might say, how can you have too much compassion? Well, you can have too much compassion when you're enabling someone to destroy themselves.
You become a people pleaser, yeah.
Yeah. It or when you're so compassionate of their behavior, you're letting them destroy others.
Mm.
It's and of course it's obvious what happens when you don't have enough. And finding that middle path isn't always easy. But here with numerology, with astrology, with every different technique we look at, we're still looking at qualities, every one of which can be too much or too little. And it's learning how to work with them that is important. And especially when we're looking at things like relationship charts, career charts. So very often in life, if I'm starting a new venture, I'll do the numerology on whatever the name of that venture is, maybe the address, etc. But again, that's not to say yes or no. It's to say what are going to be the good or bad aspects here that must be dealt with. Because virtually nothing is not going to have a problem. There's always a problem.
And Renee says she can't wait to delve into this book.
Yay! I think you'll enjoy it greatly.
Yes.
And I hope that many people will enjoy the book.
Absolutely.
And then we'll be on to the next book. And we've talked about Rev Don's book of energy. I'm thinking we might want to do a book on stones and crystals, because I'm sitting here at my desk looking at my little box of jewelry that I wear every day and thinking, I've talked about this on the program, but it would be a good book to talk about. Well, it's like, I'm wearing my rings today like I do most days, and every one has its own qualities. The ones I'm wearing today are mostly metal. There is one stone, but each metal has its own quality as well. And this is part of it's part of correspondence, it's part of ceremonial magic, it's part of alchemy. It goes through it's part of astrology, because each planet has a metal that it corresponds to. And all of these things tie in if you allow them to. Renee says, I was hoping you'd write your
I'm guessing you mean autobiography, possibly.
I think that's what she's saying, that she was
I've
hoping
been
I
asking
would
you
write
that for like a year now, at least.
It's in the plan.
I would also love to see kind of a history of the Corellian family as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think that I still have before me in life is writing the history. And Renee says, yes, that's what she meant.
No need to apologize.
And Steve says it's an awesome book idea.
Yes. I think Proxonus sent a message as well. Proxonus says, I think this is true for almost all characteristic qualities except for the good. I think things can never become too good if you have a deep look at it.
I would agree with that. But the reason I agree with it is that the meaning of good is very plastic.
And balanced, too. Good is balanced.
Yeah. What is good in one situation will not necessarily be good in another one. It's like the issue of evil that some people are so attached to. But if you ask yourself what is good and what is evil, and you look at all of history, these are definitions constantly changing. And even what some of our grandparents regarded as good would be horrifying to us. Not all of our grandparents, but many of them. And so when we talk about good, yeah, I would have to agree that the word good, I don't think you can ever have too much of. And I'm a great believer in the idea that deity or spirit or whatever you want to call it is ultimately always good. But we just have to look at the world to see that what that means isn't always what we mean by it in everyday things. You know, there's a famous book called Candide by Voltaire. I believe it was Voltaire, which starts with the great earthquake, um, I believe of Lisbon. And Dr. Pangloss is one of the protagonists in the story who is a believer in the idea that everything happens for a good reason. And it starts with the question, what could possibly be good about this devastating earthquake? And of course, the book does not endorse that point of view. But I would say that if we liberate our judgment, well, even of the events in our own lives, from the immediate feeling of them, and from the human point of view, I think always everything ultimately does move to the good. We just don't always know what that is. We don't always understand what it means at that existential sense. And I'll give you the perfect example. I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
we have a little bit of a lag in communication that causes us to speak over each other slightly, but we are on other sides of the planet. But you know, this last year was a very disruptive year. If I look back to where I was a year ago, it was not really a good place. Not health wise, not in many ways at all. But looking back at it from now, it was spirit putting me exactly where I needed to be. I am absolutely convinced that I'm just where I need to be, doing just what I need to do, and I would not have done it without those changes. I'd be working on very different things if that year had not happened as it happened. And I think that for the things both that I'm meant to do in life and that I want to do in life, that those upheavals were necessary for me. And Proxone says, somehow I lack of a good definition of good. What we call good seems to be more than the equilibrium of the elements in the soul, because even if we have a soul that is in harmony, each part of it can become better.
Oh, absolutely. Continued growth and progress is always the goal. That's very true.
Yeah. Now, we had meant to talk about a whole bunch of other things today,
Yes.
but we did not.
I did want to bring up one more thing about this numerology book with the relationship area, because I've never seen it in any other numerology book, so I'm very, very happy to see it in here. There is a section on how to compare not just two charts, but multiple charts together. So
Yes.
it's polyamorous friendly. You can use it for business teams. You can use it for sports teams. And I love how inclusive it is, that we're not just looking at partnerships, but, you know, it's webs of relationships.
Yes, indeed. And this is important in life because, you know, it's not always just two people who you need to look at. Even romantically. I mean, there has been historically a prejudice to seeing that as a two-person type of thing, but there was never a time historically when that was always the case.
In fact, the majority of people in the world still practice some form of polyamory.
Yeah.
It's more polygamy than polyamory, but, you know, hopefully it'll progress.
We'll see what the future holds. It's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
But with that, we have come to the end of our half hour. So if you want to see what's new at Corellian Publishing, go to CorellianPublishing.com. We have the pre-order for the Book of Numerology. We have all kinds of other books.
Illustration gear is still there.
Yep. Coffee cups are still there.
Yes.
If you would like your own Corellian coffee cup or your own peace campaign coffee cup, those are both there. I believe we're probably going to have more coffee cups in the future, and
we're just expanding. yeah, we're going to start making some products with our new logo, also designed by the wonderful Reverend Eric, and beautiful logo. So happy to finally start putting it on cool little things, magnets and things.
Yes.
Um, and if you have anything that you have written yourself and you are trying to find a home for publishing for it, please consider us. We're always interested in submissions, so you can send that over to Karelian.publishing@gmail.com. And the info is also on our website.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been wonderful talking with all of you. I'll be back tomorrow, and I will close with our prayer, as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. We rejoice in your presence in our lives, and we ask you to help us to use the many tools we have to analyze our lives, to analyze ourselves, and to make ourselves and our lives better. We know that all of this is put at our fingertips for our improvement, for our betterment, for a happier life. Help us to achieve that goal, beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors. We thank you with great love. And knowing you're always with us, from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence. I thank you, Krys, for your presence.
Thank you.
And may you be blessed now and always.
Blessed be everyone. And also happy Pride.
Yes, happy